where that "you are loved" message comes from is when I was still in it real bad. No matter how erratic the conversations got with my mom, she would end with "you are loved," right? And then randomly she would send me these "you are loved" messages. So when the day came when I was fucking done, I knew she was there, right? And for the 2 years of active addiction before that, it was my perceived lack of connection that was the boot on my neck. So by her giving me that message and letting me know and just reaffirming over and over, you see, I'm getting emotional now, right? It was like, it's so powerful, right? It's just so powerful. So that's how I end every single episode. It's a really important message for me, right? And it honors my mom. So fucking A. Right?
I got
I remember.
I got the phone on, so I'm gonna monitor comments as well from multiple pages, just so y'all know.
Okay.
Normally Brianna does it, but she's at work, so I gotta moderate the comments tonight. What's going on? Ooh, look at this. We already got 13 people hopping in. What's going on, everybody? We're gonna give this a little bit of time to a couple minutes to for all you guys to hop in. Please leave a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. We're streaming to like 8 different platforms right now. So just let us know where you're watching.
Drop a sobriety date too.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that. I like
drop
that.
A date, please.
Yeah. So. So yeah, I'm in Thailand now, Ben. Since we last talked, I moved to Thailand. That happened, right?
How do you like it there?
I fucking love it, man. I love it. So, like, I just paid for my rent and damage on my first place in years of my own, like years. Together, rent and damage was 280 Canadian, which is like 220 American. And it's like a bachelor pad with like a second level, like a mezzanine level in it that I can use for a recording studio and shit, right? Like it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I was just shopping for like a desk and stuff. It's like $40. I can get a brand new delivered to my house desk. Same for it, like a really nice gaming chair. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So
I gotta come visit you. Once my kids get old enough, I gotta come visit you.
It is fucking amazing here. And I came because I got a scholarship for a trauma treatment center, right? One of my sponsors, Mike at Yatra Center. We recorded an episode together, and as soon as I hit stop, he was like, "You have some trauma you need to deal with." He could just see it in me through the whole thing, right? So he invited me out here to do this, and it's like EMDR therapy, internal family systems therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, yoga, Tai Chi yesterday, meditation. Like, it's just the moment I walked through the fucking door, everything here is conducive to healing. Right. And I've learned so much, right? Like, it's absolutely amazing. And relative to treatment in the US or Canada, even with airfare, which is obscene to get here, it's still about the same or cheaper to come to Thailand for treatment. Right. Like, because they can do it here so much more cost. This is, I'll say 12,000 US is for the 30-day stay here. And it is so many of the centers in Canada are about like, just go work, pay a small fortune to go do 12-step, right? It's what you're doing, right? In a controlled environment. And 12 steps got its place. I'm not for a second am I trying to knock that. But this goes so far beyond and gets into like the root causes of all your stuff. And, you know, it's amazing, man. Like EMDR therapy, EMDR. Oof, it's amazing. Like 20 minutes took the worst trauma I have. Like something that even writing down the name made me melt down emotionally. And 20 minutes later, I could talk about it in a matter-of-fact way.
That's amazing, man.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's incredible.
But real quick, I
am blessed.
Just so we don't lose anybody in on the comments. So we got Marie Anderson saying hi. Swaggy, we got Sorrento saying hi. Casey from F Around to Recover.
Marie?
What's going on?
Yes, Casey, what's up?
Yeah. Couple more minutes before about another minute or so before we hop in. If you guys are watching for the very first time, please go ahead and drop a comment, drop a sobriety date, share this live out, please. And we are going to get started here in like 30 seconds. We're excited. We're excited for tonight. We got a good panel tonight. Really, for real.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
yeah, we do. All
right, let me go in here and we're just gonna get ready to roll this.
What's cool about this is this isn't the recovery stories, right? No, yeah. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, do the thing.
I didn't want to cut you off. I was waiting for you to be done, so I didn't want to.
I'm getting ready to dance over here to the intro.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right, guys. We're gonna roll this intro, and then we'll be back.
What happens when two compelling podcasts collide? You get BlakAsh Radio, the live nexus of the Ashes to Awesome podcast and the Blaklist Podcast. Here we don't just share stories, we delve into them, exploring the depths of addiction and recovery through powerful topic-driven discussions. Each week, join us for a thought-provoking exchange with our dynamic panel as we tackle the tough questions and uncover new perspectives on the issues that matter most. Tonight, Sean and Richard join forces with BlakAsh Radio, diving deep into the heart of addiction and recovery. Their discussion
almost ran the wrong intro there. You had one job, Jared. Your microphone's muted still. Okay, there you go.
Listen,
one job.
It's not my fault you didn't send me the right intro. Okay, I just went.
But I feel like it's your fault that you played the wrong intro. I feel like you could probably own that. I'm just saying. Right?
You know what I did.
What's
going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? Welcome. This is the 4th episode for BlakAsh Radio, so we are excited to be on here. If you guys haven't been on here, let me go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Jared Blaine. I'm one of the hosts of the Blaklist Podcast. And next up, who do we got?
Got Chuck LaFlange here, checking in, host of the Ashes to Awesome podcast from Phuket, Thailand, where I am currently living now. So, yeah.
Thailand.
What's up, man? I'm Swag. I'm the co-host of the Blaklist Podcast. Live in Detroit, Michigan now, from Orlando, Florida.
What's going on, y'all? I'm Benjamin Lerner, and I'm just a dude in recovery, but I make content, music, and all that stuff, and I like to take things one day at a time.
Humble motherfucker you are. Yes. All right. Yeah. Just a dude in recovery, he says, man.
I mean, if I get any more complex or like high end than that, I'm going to be at the low end of the gutter right quick, bro.
Fuck, I love that. I love that, man. Humility, right? Humility. Yeah. Which is a funny thing. Let me just kick off this conversation. I'll say,
yeah, go for it,
because it's something that I've come to terms with, and whatever. The ego, there has to be ego to do what we do. It's just natural, right? Like you have to have a certain amount of it. It doesn't have to be negative ego, right? Which is often the case, but so it's one of those things. That's like, okay, yeah, I have to be okay with the fact that I got a bit of ego, and that's what makes me do or helps me, get up and do this in the morning. And I think we can all agree to that. I would hope anyway, right? But it's being in the community and in the recovery content community now. I've come across some instances where it's not like where that ego is kind of off-putting sometimes. So it's something that I find myself really hard trying to keep in check, right? And then just make sure that I am doing this for the right reasons all the time, and that it is about that one person that might get the message, right? So yeah.
Nice.
What helps you keep that in check?
The people, man. Like we had this conversation the other day. There's a fence at some point in your recovery where at some point you're on the addiction side and you hear all this stuff and you nod and smile. And then at some point you cross to the recovery side, right? Where all of a sudden it all means something now, right? Your values. If you go out of value, you go out of rhythm, that's a fucking straight shot to relapse, right? So doing the things you say, saying the things you do, all this stuff that we hear in our early days, and we nod and smile and go, yeah, I know, but do you? Right? So for myself, I'm just really in the last couple months kind of coming to terms with that and seeing what, like, holy shit, now I get it, right? And that's what keeps me in check, right? So
It's powerful.
Yeah, right.
Hey, before we officially hop in, can we go over some of these sobriety dates and comments real quick?
Fuck yeah.
Yes.
All right. So let me pop them up on the screen. It might take a little bit. All right. So Terry, 9/11/23 off MAT.
Nice.
Congratulations,
Congratulations,
Terry. He's
Terry.
an awesome supporter
Great
of my
job.
platform. Shouts out to you. Always
Yeah.
bringing positivity.
Yeah. I'm not sure who this is, but y'all boys are saving a lot of lives.
Thank you,
We're
Facebook
saving
user.
lives. Being here. Being open to recover. Look at Casey, MVP.
I shared in 40 groups. That's what's up.
Boy.
Thank you, Casey. I love that.
boy,
I
man.
love that name, that F around and recover. I keep seeing it pop up, and I'm gonna have to make sure I get in there and follow. Right. So
No,
yeah.
he's awesome, dude.
He's awesome
Yeah.
guy, definitely.
Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Switch from alcohol to weed, tapering carefully, so much better.
Whatever's working for you,
Hey,
Rebecca. Whatever's working
awesome.
for you, right?
Awesome.
Is today
Awesome.
better than
stuff.
yesterday? Is tomorrow going to be better than today? That's all I give a shit about, right? For myself.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
shout out Rusty.
Rusty.
Yeah, it's down. It's down. It just loaded for me. We got Rusty with 10/18/2022.
Go Rusty.
Wrap it up.
Nice.
Ooh,
Michael
3 days
St.
before mine.
John, 6/1/16, Richmond, Kentucky. And then we
Come
got
on, Richmond,
Dill
Kentucky.
with 11/22/2019.
Nice.
Keep it up.
Congratulations to all y'all.
Yeah,
That's
no
That
awesome.
is awesome.
shit. man.
Yep.
Hey,
Jennifer
that first
Steely
day is
says
as
day
hard as
one
the
with no
first month,
cigarettes.
right?
Oh, shit.
That a
You're
girl.
better than me
you.
on the nicotine recovery, man. I quit vaping and Nicorette for a long time, trying to not do it in front of my kid anymore. But, we're all working on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Just
Yeah,
switch
vape-
to
Oh yeah,
vaping.
what do you got the vape on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right now, I'm
Congrats to
holding on like I'm
Casey.
white knuckling this. Right?
Yeah, Casey, 5722, and
Yes.
Oh,
and then
Chris
we got
and Mallory. Oh, we got 2 2017 clean dates. One in October,
Mm.
one in November. That's what's
Nice.
up. Congrats to y'all.
congrats, right? So, yeah,
That's
man.
awesome.
That first day is as hard as the first month, as hard as the first year, as hard as the first 5, right? Like that fucking
Yep.
every date counts, man. Right?
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Who wants to kick us off?
Well, I think Ben had some great discussion on beforehand. So why don't you take it for Ben?
I'm gonna shout out Eric real quick, and then we're gonna take. I love always doing the recovery dates on my lives. People accuse me of being like too quick talking like an auctioneer because I try to get any of them. Shout out JC2. You're gonna hear me doing that whenever it's me, just calling out all of them. But yeah, before the break, like before we broke into this, like we were talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a beautiful thing to be able to give back in recovery one day at a time. But it can also be stressful to operate in that circle. There's a saying in certain recovery circles, which is we can only give away what we ourselves have. And
Right.
so,
Truth.
we got to figure out what works to keep us balanced, keep us on the beam, whether we're content creators, whether we're just people in recovery, not recovering out loud on the internet or whatever, but recovering out loud in our lives, helping people. Don't even have to work for a treatment center. But if you do work for a treatment center, if you work in the field of any type of mental health or addiction treatment, or if you work as a content creator, spreading your own experience, strength, and hope, or just work in a fellowship or a support group helping other people, was the topic like what helps us stay sober and grounded and grateful and like do our own mental health at the same time that we're trying to help others, regardless of what we're doing in recovery?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of you're right, a little bit of everything because, I guess I can kind of run in real quick to what inspired part of the conversation was, people, like you said, Ben hit it right on the nail on the head. It's amazing for us to come in here and be able to give back and want to be able to change, help change people's lives and whatnot. But we also got to be very grounded in our own recovery. Swag said it before too, that, like we're filling other people's cups, but we're not filling our own. So we got to make sure that we are still filling our cup, because if we don't, that could just lead to bad circumstances. And, and we don't want to see that happen. So, we're kind of talking about a little bit of what things that can help us in that and kind of go from there.
Well, if I could challenge Swag to get you in here, Swag. You got how much time, if you don't mind me asking?
For almost 42 months.
Good for you, bro. Good for you, right? Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
So in that 42 months, obviously there's been some rough times, because there is for all of us. We're all human, right? So
Yes, sir.
Could you maybe tell us what leads to, like, what gets you, to the edge or whatever? And then more importantly though, what brings you back, right? In your experience over the last 42, right?
Man, I say, like, what gets me out of whack. Like I said, I work in recovery. Been working at my job for 4 months. You talked about that ego earlier. And the thing for me is we all think we get recovery, then when all of a sudden we got it, and then we're starting to do our thing. We're going, sharing, say I'm working in recovery. I'm really not filling my cup up. I'm just giving and giving and giving and giving. It's like when I first started at the center. And then all of a sudden, boom, man, I get home, and the thoughts and the negative thoughts, and kind of get overwhelmed. And so pick up the phone, just like the old school things, man. You got to do what you don't like really to do. You got to put your ego again to the side. You got to kind of take your pride. For me, I was like, hey, I'm faith-based. So I would be like, hey, I need to surrender again. I got to start over from ground zero. I need to reground myself again, because the thing for me is working at a center and say 90 guys every day. So you can imagine they're coming straight out of detox to me. The egos, the pride, the fog that's in their mind, the conversations that I'm dealing with, you can only imagine. So if you imagine when you was back week 2, 3, 4 weeks sober, it was a rough time. It was a rough period for all of us. And so here I'm trying to give them the right encouragement, the right words. So what I do for me to stay grounded, say when I'm having a moment or it's like, bro, it's overwhelmed, I'll put myself in that person's shoes really quick, and it makes me reground myself, because if I don't put myself in their shoes really quick, you can really get aggravated at the person in front of you, because they're not understanding really much of what's going on, coming off that drug or coming off that alcohol. Our conversations can be wild, and a lot of times, they're going through schizophrenia. There's a lot of names out there, that I found out now coming out dealing with mental health. Figuring a lot of this stuff is dealing with mental health now. And for myself, I have to stay grounded, and I have to make sure my cups are overflowing, because like I said, when I first started, I was pouring out of that cup, and I would get home and I'm like, wow, like I felt empty inside. And that's when I said, man, I would call Jared, I'd call my friends, I'd call everyone else I knew in recovery, my life coach, and say, hey man, this is what I got going on. And that's when he would just go to tell me, so you know what you got to do? You got to start like you're at ground zero. Today you just got to stay sober today. You can't focus on anything else. If you stay focused on just today, break it down to per hour again. You know what you got to do. And that's the thing, man, is like I was telling them guys tonight, that feeling that you're feeling right now, like you're accomplished something, you got 10 or 12 days sober, you feel that? You can have that each and every day, and if you just got to work on staying sober. So I think the ego and the pride has a lot to do with everything in each and individual's life, because at the first time at the beginning, you feel defeated, you're not loved. So at the beginning, man, my go to them is just letting them know that they're worth it. They are loved, and we're here to help them. But as far as myself, I have to really work on my ego and pride at the beginning, man, because if not, my damn cup can get drained out really quick.
I love that. Ben, what about you? What's your trigger? I guess I'm not a big fan of the word trigger, but it applies, right? So what's your trigger?
It has a lot of meanings in recovery and non-recovery circles that can be polarizing. Just kidding. But what's interesting about polarizing is when you talk about polarity. In active addiction, the polarity of everyday experience is crazy.
Right.
Like it's destructive, poisonous, out of your brain and body euphoria that you're chasing, followed by agonizing dope sickness and more than that, shame. And one of the best people that helped me in my recovery, he said to me, Ben, like, you're sober. And at the time, I was obsessed with working out. I still work out a little bit today. Shout out to all the fitness recovery people. I fully support that, but that was my addiction. And he peeped me, like, checking myself out, like, kind of attaching my value to that external, even if it's just outside of my mind thing. And he's like, but you're still like up and down like crazy. Like if someone breaks up with you in a relationship, or if you have a bad day at work, or if something bad happens with your family, it's like you're dope sick again. And I was like, whoa. And that hit me because it made me realize that whether you want to call it emotional sobriety, mental health, whatever that means to you, like, if I'm not at a place where at least I'm aware that a lot of the hardship I'm going through is a drug I'm producing in my head separate from any chemical, and I need to detox from that, even though it's not a substance. And like Swag said, get back to that early awareness and get back to that early humility. For me, what works is a lot of content, for the content specifically, although this does relate to my time in the treatment field as well, which was short-lived. I was only an outpatient counselor as a peer counselor for a year, but a lot of the things I learned there tie into my content and the column that I write about recovery and the advocacy work that I do and when I go speak at schools and whatever. But like I make content about, I choose the point in my recovery that I speak about in my content, not just arbitrarily. If there's something I'm going through today with 7 years sober, even though I like to think all I got is one day at a time, I think back to another point in my recovery where I had a different but similar emotional response, or like negative or positive place on that. And I kind of use that reel I'm making, telling that story, that in order for me to feel it, like, and go back there, I have to be in a similar mental place. So if you ever catch me making a reel talking about how I got through something, it's usually, not always, but usually because I'm going through a similar thing today and trying to power myself through it. And also talking to people, you know, in my recovery circle. But one of the cool things about social media and having, like, you know, hundreds, thousands, depending on the reach of a post, people like look at something, is that, you know, it might hurt my feelings to get a comment, and some are just troll comments. But when I see a really insightful comment that like reminds me of something that someone in my in-person recovery circle would say, whether it's from that or whether it's from someone I know in person, like, that's my medicine. When I call somebody up, when I open myself up and get that reminder that, you know, I have to humble myself down, that I have to like take it back to basics. That's, you know, medicine in a different type than Suboxone or Vivitrol or like promethazine for the nausea was in treatment. Whatever your MAT thing is, I respect it. But, you know, regardless of what medications we're on, which can be life-saving or lack thereof, the real medicine for me, in addition to any of that, is the hard pill to swallow of either me through my own realization or somebody else telling me, slow it down, compadre. Take it to that slow, grateful place. We got that awareness.
I love that, man. I love that. And you and I have talked when you're on my show about the way you do your content, Ben. And I got to do another shout out, because I was just saying this to somebody this morning. It's genius, bro. And you didn't really break it down like this the last time we talked about it, but like now I see the formula, and that's awesome, man. That is awesome, right? Like I do love what you do, and that's obviously what, you know, the people do as well, right? You better take a minute to shout out some dates, because I'm sure they're popping up on your screen.
Yeah, I see some. Not as much dates, just like incredible insights, like people talking about how you were talking about your trauma, someone talking about ADHD and how that diagnosis helped. And people talking about their own struggles, like Amber talking about, like, you know, cross addiction. Shout out to her. People saying, like, echoing the ethos of what we're talking about. Mallory with so much to learn. People talking about making boundaries with their family and friends. Like, this is what I love about these lives, man. Like, the conversations that occur in the comments are equally as profound as what we're doing. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, right. So I want to speak to that ADHD for a quick second.
Really
if you don't
quick,
mind, Jared? Go ahead. Yeah.
Because if I already know if we don't play this, we're gonna get off topic really quick. Sorry, but I have to keep us disciplined right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna play a quick PSA from the Phoenix, and then we'll be right back after this short, brief commercial. There might be a little lag. It's the right video, I promise.
The Phoenix. The Phoenix is not just a gym, it's a community where the real weight lifted is not just barbells, but hearts, minds, and spirits. Whether you're in recovery or simply choose to live a sober lifestyle, the Phoenix offers a range of activities from yoga to hiking, all led by people who've walked the path of transformation. So why not aim higher with the Phoenix? The first membership requirement is just 48 hours of sobriety. Rise from the ashes and soar with the Phoenix today. Do you know about naloxone, otherwise known as Narcan? This life-saving medication can reverse an opioid overdose in minutes. You might think, I don't need it, I'm not around opioids. But the truth is, you never know when you'll be in a situation where you could save a life. It's easy to use, and in many places offer it for free or at a low cost. So let's be prepared and look out for each other. Remember, you might not plan on being around opioid use, but you never know when it will be around you, and you could save the life of somebody that loves and is loved. I'm Chuck LaFlange with the Ashes to Awesome podcast, and remember, you are loved.
Right. So
we are back.
Something I'd like to real quick about that PSA. I did a memorial episode with a lady, Joy, I don't know, a couple months ago now. And we played the PSA. So she tells me this story, and it's just something for everybody listening to remember right now. If you don't have Narcan, think about this. She lost her son to an opioid poison, to a drug poisoning, right? I don't even like calling them overdose anymore. And this is fast forward a couple years. She's at home. She looks out her front window and there's a lineup of cars at the stop sign that's out front of her house. And it's like a residential. There's like, why is there a traffic jam in a residential neighborhood? She goes out and looks. There's a guy slumped over at the steering wheel at the stop sign. He's overdosing. That's what's happening. She runs inside. She gets her Narcan and she saves this guy's life. You just don't know. Here she is in suburbia. There's somebody. She was able to save a life right then and there. So, folks, like if you know, and I always say on our show, if you can't find it for free, send me a message. I'll find it for you, or I'll get it to you. I don't care where in the world you are. I got one out to South Africa, right? Because they don't have Narcan there. So you know, I managed to get a kit down there too. Like it's just too important to have around, right? You don't know. You don't know. So, speaking of the ADHD thing, real quick, if you don't mind, that one's near and dear to my heart. I self-medicated for 25 years and didn't even know I had ADHD. I didn't have a clue. And my buddy's wife says, well, yeah, you do. Like you've been self-medicating. You just don't realize it because stimulants, coke, meth, right? And I was like, oh, okay. I regret her telling me that. At least I regretted her telling me that over the course of the next few months. Because what happens was I had moved provinces, and in Canada, like healthcare is province to province. So I couldn't get to see a doctor and get medication. So the chaos in my brain, I'm not self-medicating for the first time in more than 2 decades. And I'm constantly like the chaos is becoming overwhelming. And in my head, $40 in a phone call, $40 in a phone call. That's all it takes for this to go away. That's all it takes for, you know, and it's the closest I've come to relapse in the last 13 months and some odd days, 14 months and some odd days that I've been clean. So it's, it was a real realization for me. So like, if you have ADHD, if you think you might, go get it addressed, whatever that means. Like again, there's so many things I can do this to a person, but for me, it was like, that was so hard to get through. That was so hard to get through. Right. You know, right. So yeah.
That awareness though.
Yeah. Right. And for me, where the awareness comes from is because I surround myself in recovery all the time. Right. I never dedicated myself to a program the way a lot of people do. That said, my first 30 days doesn't happen without the rooms. So I am 100% a fan of 12-step, if for no other reason than the fellowship. Any arguments against that? Anybody I've heard making an argument against 12-step use 12-step to get sober, and now they're sitting around talking about it. Right?
Rooms are powerful. Fellowship in itself, regardless of 12-step, is powerful, and 12-step is a powerful tool too. It's absolutely everybody's right. Different, but what I tell people about fellowships, 12-step or not, who are averse to them because they didn't like the vibe in treatment or they met people they didn't like, is it's a place with other sober people. They're not perfect people, but a lot of them want to help. Yeah.
That's
right. That's certainly a lot better than the shit you were
support.
in.
Yes.
Everybody's looking for support. So where do you go find support? Where do you find a group of support at?
Yeah, right. Certainly not with your old
12-step at a meeting. So that's what I tell the guys. You're talking about support. So hey, you got to, once you get out of center, you got to find some people that are just like you. And where do you find those people? At a meeting.
Exactly. I was fortunate because I had the show that kept me super busy. For one, busy's good, right? Busy's a really good thing. And two, surrounded in recovery all the time, right? All the time. Much like yourselves, though, when you talk about that, keeping my own cup full, that really didn't sink in until I got to that metaphoric fence I was talking about, right? Where you cross into the recovery side and understand that, and for better understanding. Jared, what do you got for what has set you off and what keeps you in the game?
I mean, one, it's not really fair to have me go after Benjamin because I can't live up to that answer.
We've had a break and I've yabbered on.
I know this guy.
What you have been through in your story and the strength you have literally lived like a top 5 episode of Breaking Bad. So anything that my Where's Waldo self over here can say needs to be tempered with a grain of, I did not live a Hollywood movie, man. Talk your talk, bro. Like,
well said, bro. Well said.
Come on, man.
That's some great energy, man.
But I got to give it to him, though, because he's so the way that you put your things and analogies and stuff is fucking crazy. So I do got to say that.
I love words, man. Thank you.
So what are we talking about? What sets us off and what keeps us grounded?
Yeah. What about you, bro?
Yeah. I mean, jeez, I'm trying to. I'll go as far as like I'm saying, like what keeps me grounded. I'm just gonna kind of start with that. Personally, what keeps me grounded is the fact that knowing, just like Ben said, on every day is to him. It doesn't matter how many years, it's day one, and that's how I look at it. Is all this can be over by tomorrow. Right? This all can be over by tonight. It doesn't matter, unfortunately, how many days, how many hours, how many years I got sober. It's I can fall any day. And that's just the way that I look at it. Like I can't sit here and say I'm going to be sober the next 20 years as much as I would love to. I can't guarantee that because guess what? We're human beings. And if we don't have if we don't have that discipline in our own recovery, we're going to crash and burn. I mean, that's just not everybody, but it can happen. Anyway, so with that being said, though, I just have to keep humbling myself to remind myself, like, I am not immortal. This shit can happen, and I don't know. I maybe don't have the best elaborate answer when it comes to it, but that's just like my own.
Your answer was great, bro. It was great, man.
But that's just the biggest thing is that even if things like wants to like set me off, like I'll tell you this. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't ever have a thought or I don't ever have a craving or I don't have a trigger, quote unquote. I might be. Listen, blues, M30s, they were my thing. And I'll be going, excuse me, on social media and I'll be seeing how, they caught all this fentanyl and I'll just get a quick in my mind, like, damn, like I remember that. But then it brings me back to being like, yo, this next time could be my last time. Next time. And when Ben was on our show the last time, we were talking about the whole fentanyl crisis. Like we got into some pretty deep stuff. But that's the thing. Like,
excited for that to drop, dude.
I know it's gonna be a good one. And but the thing is it's just like, even if I wanted to go use, I couldn't because it'd probably be the last time that happens. And so I can't, and you, as being a recovery content creator, there's not one person that can sit here and say that, oh, I got sober and I never had a trigger or never had a thought or never had this or that. Come on, because unfortunately there's people that go out there and say that, but it's like, come on, you can't sit there and say that you've never been tempted even years into sobriety. The point is we choose. It's how we choose to stay sober, and that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well said, bro. Well said.
Ben, really quick, Ben, I see you're replying to a bunch of comments. Can you see all the comments or can you just see the comments that come in on your page?
Just on his platform.
I think just me, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I'm just talking to my people on here.
No, you're good. There's like,
I don't want to interrupt, but on my Monday night lives, if y'all been, I go all the comments with
there's like,
so
dude, there's like 6
I do the same thing in text.
Well, Ben, why don't you read some of them out then? Because you're fucking great at that. So why don't we do that?
Let me tell you, people were giggling about the Where's Waldo. Only difference is I stick out like a sore thumb. People's had, I'm going to talk about people talking about harm reduction. And they're talking about like resources for that, nextdistro.org. I'm a big proponent of Narcan and all harm reduction. Shout out to Michael 4923 in Ontario. We got Canada Love in here. People talking about buprenorphine for MAT and pain management, different things. I mean, that's the great thing about Recovery Lives is that like people come here with things that they're people talking about their loved ones, fiance, telling them to just forget. There's a lot of things we could do like a whole big live on, but like that little like puzzle, that jigsaw of all the different things, that's what this online game is all about, man. Like every live I go on, like you never know what people are going to say, like the talking heads, sure. But the comments, man, it gets deep in the comments. There's a Yo Gotti song from like 2015. It goes down in the DM. I like to think on the Recovery Lives, it goes down in the comments, man. There's so much fuel there. It's amazing.
I love that analogy, man.
There's only one thing I want to say on this really quick before we, I don't know what we're diving into next, but the one thing I do want to say,
I got something I want to talk about, but go ahead, Jared. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just want to say this because this is something that the only thing I wanted to say the whole time when I was thinking about this is when you come into this field, whether it's on a clinical in a rehab, you know, whether it's in a treatment center or you're literally just a recovery advocate or recovery content creator. I understand people, they have great hearts and they have great intentions. I just please make sure you're filling your own cup. I just got to say that, please, because there's been times for me personally that I will say this, that I'm out here every day putting into everybody else, but I'm not filling myself up, and I'm going to call myself out on it. And I went through, Swag knows, I went through a period before we came back on this whole last crazy phase in the podcast. I was done. I was 100% done. I was over it. I told Swag, I don't want to do this no more. And I was just depressed and I was just down. And I'm like, I'm over here feeding into everybody, but I'm not filling myself up. And if I didn't have so much discipline in my recovery, that could have ended very bad for me. So that's the biggest thing. I just want to just encourage people. If you want to do this, 100%, all love, but make sure you're filling your cup up and make sure that you're being held accountable, because that's the other thing, accountability. You know, if we don't have accountability, you know, we ain't got nothing. And you know that, and yes, make sure we got a support system and whatnot, because I've seen it happen personally, and I got nothing but love for people, but I want everybody to succeed, and I want everybody to live up into all the expectations in life. But you just got to be, and sometimes there might be a little bit of time where this is what you want to do, but you might have to wait 6 months. You might have to wait a year. You might have to wait just enough to just get that, you know, get a little bit of your under your belt, get a little bit of clean time, and then hop into it. So just because it's not happening now doesn't mean it's never going to happen.
Right.
Anyways, that's all I want to say. That was my little motivational speech.
I love it, man. Locker room speech.
I want to talk about something, and when you're doing this, and I know for me personally, I used to do 6 episodes a week. There was Memorial Mondays and Family Fridays were specifically the hard ones, where every Monday we celebrated the life of somebody we lost to addiction by pointing out that there's so much more than a statistic or how they passed. And Family Fridays were about having somebody on who's still got a loved one that's in it, right? And so I'm an empathetic, wear my heart on my sleeve guy, right? Like, it's not even an episode of Ash is Awesome unless I cry, right? And it's kind of a joke amongst my co-hosts, right? So wallowing in that stuff, not wallowing, empathizing with all of this grief and all of this and the sadness and the disappointments and all that stuff got really heavy. And there was points in there where apathy would kind of take over, and I would find myself and not happy with it, right? And like, why is this not hitting me the way that it did last week? And one of my co-hosts on Wednesday, Ryan Baskate, said it's apathy can be a warm duvet when you're in this all the time, right? It's your body's way of resetting itself and just taking a break so that you can get up again and do it tomorrow or next week or whatever with that same passion again. And I wonder, specifically to you, Swag, because you work in it, right? Do you find yourself getting to that point of apathetic kind of thought where it's just like, you know what, man, like I can't even live this with you today because it's just too fucking heavy, and I gotta step back from it. You know what I mean?
It happened to me I felt like 4 weeks ago, man. It was and it scared me. And when it happened, I went immediate to my boss and said, "Hey, I need to go home. I need to." Wow, it was one of those days where it was just total hell, hectic. Everybody was coming at everybody every which way. I'm very intuitive when I walk in. When I walked in that morning, I felt it, and I was like, "Wow, you know." I'm always prepared. But like I said, man, you can always catch yourself when you're kind of your armor down sometimes.
Yeah.
And the guy had kind of came at me the wrong way, and man, my top flipped. And when I say that I flipped, and I did, and I had to come home and regroup myself and really dig deep in myself, you know, to find out who I was again. Like thinking, man, I got to put myself in his shoes. And that time I was ready to do something physical, you know, and I couldn't even believe it because it was really the first time, and I'd say a good 1.5 years, 2 years, that I had kind of like really tripped out and had like some emotions that, like you say, you don't move on feelings, especially in recovery. You know how your emotions and your feelings can get really wild.
Yeah.
And I did, like I came around the corner, and I'm glad he didn't turn around. I'm glad he kept walking, because it scared me, because if he would have turned around, I don't know if I could have stopped. And that's when I caught myself after it happened. I was like, holy shit, man. Like,
Well,
I don't have drugs and alcohol. I don't
Like,
have drugs and alcohol to blame this on. Yeah, man. I was a very, very violent person.
Yeah, right. I don't know your history. I just know you did some time, like some serious time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
I've done some time. And like I said,
right?
I'm a career violent criminal. I've been arrested over 20 times, but I've never been arrested sober. And so
there's a pattern.
Yeah. So even though, I have the 40 months, for almost 42 months, you still think, I have 24 years at 42 years old, I have one leg. So like I tell people, I didn't lose my life. I lost a leg, so laying there, thinking about what I had going on. So then I got to go back to those stages, guys. Like I have to sit and think, man, hey, I got to look down. Like when that happens, I got to say, hey, man, go back to where when this leg's going.
Yeah.
And
I
then realize, hey,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
I have a prosthetic, and that's what I said. My story's pretty wild, but at the same time, service work saves my life every day. I don't care. Right. I did 3 speeches a day. I worked 17 hours yesterday, 14 and a half hours a day. I got home at 8:15. I ate my spaghetti. I'm on this. This is my life. If I don't put recovery first, everything else comes last. So I'm really good at filling my cup up. But I do have my days where it's like, damn, like you said, that day I tripped out, and then I removed myself quick from a situation. There was no way I could stay there, and it wouldn't have been good for anyone. So I did remove myself. It was like the old school when I first started getting sober in recovery. I would just, when someone would say something I didn't like, I would remove myself from that room. I'd get up, don't follow me, just let me go on out and get my mind right. Well, that's what I had to do that day, about 4 weeks ago. So I'm a human being. Like Jared says, hey, man, we're human. We don't have this thing figured out. And when you do, you think you got it figured out, it's going to bust you right in the ass.
Yeah. Yep. Only fools are positive, right? Only fools are positive, right? Ben, what you got going on for comments over there, bro? Right.
This is a really good one because it's just kind of all encompassing. I've had some great ones. People echoing, can't pour from an empty cup, got to walk the talk. Working in the treatment field, kind of echoing what you just said, Swag, has shown me that I got to focus that much more on my own recovery. Big facts there. And then Mallory just came with learning how to cope with my emotions clean was one of the hardest lessons I have had in recovery. Yeah. Like, I can keep the rig out my vein. I can keep the stem out my mouth, the foil more than 3 inches away from my face. But, if I'm not acknowledging my addiction to self-destructive tendencies that have nothing to do with chemicals and everything to do with how I regulate and interact with things within my own mind and outside that I have a hard time either controlling or letting go of control of, which are often interconnected, I'm going to be miserable. It's not going to be the same depleted neurotransmitters that make me throw up and feel dope sick or have the shakes or DTs. But what's even more miserable about it in a way is that the one thing that was both the worst, and I'm not going to say best, but the most easily solvable thing in active addiction was that I had the illusion that I still believed that if I got my bag, if I got my rock, if I got my 40 or little $1.50 shot, that I would be okay. But in recovery, now that illusion's removed and I know that the substance is not a solution, the solution is in here and it's in the people outside that can help me. But if I'm so veiled off from that and with my pride and my ego and, my simultaneous procrastination and hypermania, I'm going to make the whole
That's ADHD
world
right there, man. Right?
my enemy. I'm going to make everybody and myself my enemy. And there's no illusion of a destructive chemical that's going to take it all away. So it's not like I can call the plug, but I can call a friend in recovery. And although they might not have all the answers, it will be better for me than calling the plug. Because if it's a good friend, it's free. The best things in life are free. And if it's a good person that I can rely on, they will call me out on my BS and actually do what the drugs never could do, which is actually help me.
Right.
And that's powerful, man. The plug never helped me. It was temporary relief. The liquor store never helped me. They smile in my face and sell me poison, send me back, not just to like risk dying once that Fetty came around, but really there was no risk in this. It was always a fact. Be more miserable in the morning than ever before. But now in recovery, you're telling me for free, I could call someone up and all I got to do is get out of my own mental baggage and embrace that ability? Like, what? That's a gift, man. That is a gift. Present.
Absolutely.
Shout out the holiday season, man, but that is a present.
Let's see. Yes, Melissa says an active addiction, we are emotionally numb. Recovery is feeling all
True
the
story.
feels. And that's
man.
on point right there. I saw that comment. I just had to hop it on there because that's on point.
Yeah, man.
Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just see really quick if we can kind of go through a couple of these. I'm just kind of looking. But, I'd say 98% of the people on here are on Ben's page. So got Ben's covering the comments pretty good. So
I try, man. Like, all I do is type all day, dude. I write these, like, I'm in the office now. Like, I write these fluffy tourist magazine things about, like, cheese shops. And, for a recovering crack and dope fiend, that's pretty funny. But all I do is type all day. So I guess my fingers can never get a break, just like my racing mind.
Yeah, right.
Terry says, guard yourself. Lots of wolves in sheep's clothing. Absolutely.
Damn straight there is.
Absolutely. Me and Swag were just talking about this the other day, that not everybody is who they say they are, especially in recovery. And we were just talking about that with the situation that happened. And it's just the way it is. You just
man.
You gotta guard yourself and protect yourself.
And just as importantly, even arguably more importantly, is to be authentic, right? And these are all these things that, like, now that I'm on the other side of that metaphoric fence I was talking about, right? If you're living in your values, you've got to be in your values. I put out a meme the other day, Ben, you'll like this because you pay attention to analytics and stuff, right? I went to go make a meme and I was like, I want to try something here. So I put who is it? Tom Hardy. I put the words on a Tom Hardy picture. I got a week's worth of analytics in 2 hours, right? So tempting, yep, right? I'm like, I could do this, like, holy shit, man. And, this could pay off. What I ended up doing a few short hours later was putting a disclaimer on it saying, hey, love this guy, but these words aren't his. I did this to see what would happen. It was an experiment. And, I just want to be very clear with everybody that this was, that I did this thing and it, so that I was holding to myself, right? Because I didn't want it to be this dishonest thing that I had done. It's as minor as that is and as inconsequential as it might be. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad I did that because I'm not sitting here with a dirty little secret. Dirty little secrets are bad for recovery. Right? They are. They're horrible for your recovery, man. Right? Yeah.
Mallory writes this. This is my first time seeing any of you guys. Shout out to Casey for leading me here. And thank you so much, Casey, because you know what? Casey's a fucking cool ass guy. Chuck, you definitely gotta get with him. He's gonna come on my show January 2nd. And Casey and I, we've been talking more and more. And he is a cool dude. So and that guy is authentic and he's got a good heart. And Ben, you've been seeing, I think you're muted, Ben, right?
Yeah, I've been.
Okay.
I got this cold in my son and my girlfriend.
Okay.
Back and forth for like 2 weeks, so I'm just coughing and like wiping my nose.
You're good.
I might catch it through the camera. I don't know. Watch out.
But Ben, I'm sure Ben has been seeing though. But Casey, dude, the dude's got he got 7K in 5 days.
You know what the beautiful thing about social is, dude? It has no reason other than a beautifully complex and not arbitrary, but just mathematical algorithm. And Casey has been making quality content for a year, man. And it makes me so happy to see the algorithm working in his favor, dude, because apart from just being a good guy and working a solid recovery program, he's funny. He
Yeah.
makes recovery fun, man. And
Yeah,
like
that's
that
so
is what's so
important, see?
great
Yeah.
about his content. He posts memes that I would never expect on a recovery page. Like he's brilliant at taking like non-recovery content and making it so funny and relatable in recovery. Like I love his
That's awesome.
stuff, dude.
That's awesome.
And even then,
there's-
even then he gets
Go ahead.
shit on about it though, you know, because like
Yeah,
today,
but-
you know,
yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
gets hated on, man. Like
If you're
talk
if you're
about
not if somebody's
self-care
not
in the-
pissed off, you're not doing it right. That's at
Right.
the end of the day, you're gonna piss somebody off, right? And
I
that's
went
okay.
through the 5 stages of denial in my troll comment journey, and I occasionally respond to them now, but I don't even know like what those stages, like the order of them are, but it was like, no, the 5 stages of grief, like denial, anger, like bargaining, like all those different things. And now when I see one, man, I'm just like, I'm too tired, man.
Yeah,
I need to guard my energy, dude. Like I don't even hate him anymore. I just kind of laugh and I'm like, I hope that made you happy, bro. Like I hope that gave you some jollies. Like if that's what you got to do to put a smile on your face, my guy, like go for it, man. I'm not gonna stop you. Like what do I look like taking people's joy away from them, man? If someone is so miserable they got to do that to like get their little dopamine hit for the day, like go for it, man. But
Yeah,
just
I
know,
see
just
you
like I had to
respond to
know
the
an active
occasional one, though,
addiction, there's
man.
a better world outside of that misery just waiting for you.
Damn straight there is. And I see you occasionally respond to something, Ben, something negative, and when you do, it's typically very powerful, right? Like
Thank you. I mean, I do comment response
a couple times, right? Like you've got me fucking fired up, right?
Oh, thank you, man. I mean, when I do I don't do as many anymore.
Yeah.
Because I've been focused more on the fentanyl epidemic recently and like topical stuff, but because I've really been making a big effort to educate myself on foreign policy and lack thereof in regards to the fentanyl epidemic. But back a couple months ago, I was doing mad comment response videos, and that was part of my like bargaining stage and what I was just. I still do them to this day, although I'm trying to do more positive ones. But the way I pick my negative comment response videos is very simple. If it's just something said to me about me, like your recovery music sucks, or like your hair is stupid, or why are you wearing a beanie hat? It's warm. In Vermont, it's not warm. Let me tell you that. But where I'm at, it's not
here,
warm. But it might be warm where you're at. But regardless,
it's
like
hot here.
yeah, I bet in Thailand, shoot. But if I saw a comment and I was in active addiction or early recovery, and it would like set me off to the point that if I was in a good place, you got to take accountability for your own recovery. But there are things people say that can set people off who are in a fragile space, who are still healing. If I saw a comment directed even to somebody else and it would like mess with my recovery early on, I got to address it. Because some of the things that people say, not just about me, but about recovering addicts in general, are just so harmful that like seeing it repeat. And another thing is if it's repeatedly said, like if I see a comment on like 10 different reels and it's just so ignorant, like I have to say something. Because people who are coming on this platform in early recovery, like they got to know there's people on the other side who are refuting that. And maybe that's immature of me. Maybe I need to cut that, but I don't know. It's my way of coping with it that makes it so that I can maybe make something educational out of it. I don't know.
Well, and I think you do, bro. You do. You address it quite well, usually with facts that I've seen anyway, right? And facts are what they are. They're facts. So
I try.
What about therapy, you guys? What about therapy? Where do we all land on that? And I know Jared. Well, you tell your own story, Jared, but I don't need to talk to you, right?
What are we talking about? Like,
Therapy.
Do I personally do therapy?
Yeah, and I mean, only tell what you want to tell, but like, is it important in your recovery?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Like that's, again, I'm not speaking for everybody else, but for me personally, I didn't do therapy for a long time, to be honest with you, and it wasn't until Brianna actually pushed me to start doing therapy, because I realized, like, when I was in that down and depressed stage, and I was just like, I'm done with this, that, and the third, I realized, like, yo, I still got a lot of fucking shit I got to work on. And so for me, like, I had to go back and do therapy. Now, I was going pretty consistent for a couple months, and I've kind of slacked on it recently, to be honest with you, but I was going every other week. But I realized, though, it just helped me process things more, just the different tools and the different tricks and whatnot. So personally, yes, I think it's very, very, very important, at least in my recovery. Not to say that therapy is the only way to go, or you're not going to make it without therapy, but it's definitely a tool to help cope.
Yep. Fair enough. Hey, Swag, what about you? You land on that.
Man, I've been lucky. I've never been to like a therapy session, like with a doctor. Do I believe in? Of course. I mean, I know a lot of people that do use therapy. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that I probably couldn't use it. I am a busy person. I stay in my recovery, so as far as therapy for myself, man, like I know how to meditate, so I stay in the zone, kind of up in my own frame. I try not to get too far outside of my box. I haven't had really any like major incidents in my life to where I maybe needed to wanted to talk to somebody professional. I believe my friends, my life coach. I won't say that's not a form of therapy.
Of course it is.
It's calling them, but as far as like saying, hey, I have a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever you want to call them, I've never had one. I believe in them totally 100.
And well, also, I'll flip something on you there, Swag. I'll flip something on you if you don't mind. You said you're lucky. I would say if you got like getting the right therapy is the luck, man. Like that is the because I tell you from my own experiences, the big T traumas, like the violence and all that aside, what I've learned since being here at Yatra is life-changing. Like it's just what you learn about how because trauma doesn't happen to you, it happens within you. It's what's left, right? So it's not that I got tortured or house invaded, right? That's not the trauma. The trauma is what's left behind after that, right? So and things that happen when you're kids, all sorts of shit comes up. I'm not going to I'll bastardize anything I try and sound smart about as far as the individual therapies go. But I'll say that there's a sense of freedom. There's a sense of freedom that I have now that I haven't had my entire fucking life. Right. Just from being my mind and my home. At one point, it trapped me in my home, never mind my mind. I couldn't get on a bus 14 months ago. I could not get on a bus with 30 people on it. I'd turn around and went home every time. It was just too damn much. And then a month ago, I got on a plane and I flew halfway around the fucking world to come live in Thailand, right? Get therapy. And awesome. Fuck, it's crazy, man, right? It's crazy, What about you though, Ben? Where do you land on therapy? Is that a thing that you've experienced or?
Yes. I'm not going to take up too much time with this because this chat is awesome and I got 10% on my battery. So I got a real convenient setup. The magazine office that I work at is literally one door away from my apartment. So I'm going to run back over there and get my charger and relocate within the room after I say this because I want to keep this going. So you're going to have to forgive me for that, but not going anywhere. But I have autism spectrum disorder. If you can't tell from my awkwardness and my fidgety movements and all that. But I've been in therapy since I was 3. First, it was physical and very early kid therapy. Then 9 to 13, I had a therapist. Then I didn't have a therapist other than rehab therapists for a while. But I got back into therapy in a different context, just out of curiosity and on suggestion from people in my recovery circle when I was 2.5 years in. And I only went there for 7-9 months before I moved. And I'm in a place where it's hard to get a therapist. It's a rural area. There's a lot of good therapists, but most of them have been seeing the same people for 20 years. And a lot of houses get flipped here in real estate real quick and a lot of spaces at therapist's office. But I live an hour away from 2 50 to 100,000 person cities, man. I could do it if I wanted to, but what therapy did for me is it gave me something I'm only going to talk about the therapy when I was sober. What it did was it gave me something other than my recovery circle and fellowship to bounce stuff off of. And it was a different form of transparency and accountability that had a different knowledge behind it. Recovery and the things that I learned there were certainly therapy, and the people I met and the people who helped me certainly had therapeutic elements. The difference with my therapist was he really addressed underlying causes of behavioral patterns outside of the pure spectrum of addiction. And, you know, for me, recovery and addiction is all encompassing, and I can tie my addiction and recovery to all of the behaviors that we talked about in there. So in that sense, it wasn't different. And recovery did touch on all those things. The trauma through the inventory, like, you know, amends through like guilt and resentment, like all that stuff was covered in my recovery circle and the work I did there. Mm-hmm. But what was different is it was one-on-one with the person who, not to be too real, but I was paying and knew that I was not just pouring my problems out on and weighing them down. Because in recovery, there's kind of this double standard of accountability and self-work. And you got to have accountability and transparency. I don't know if this is just me, but you don't just dump your problems on people and ask for sympathy. And therapy isn't that either, but sometimes I would not bring certain problems to the rooms because they were completely irrelevant from alcoholism and addiction. And so what therapy did is it allowed me to connect with someone when it didn't have anything to do with any fellowship, any aspect of recovery or addiction, and sit and have silent space in a safe environment where I could breathe, look within myself, and have a bouncing board that could help me to get towards certain breakthroughs. Now, I could have easily gotten those probably down the line in recovery, but I feel like it was a springboard, just like recovery can be to therapy. I think they coexist. I think for a lot of people, it's not like, oh, I just go to therapy. I don't do, recovery groups. I don't practice recovery like that. I just stay sober. Or I only do, like, shout out to people who do both of those things. That can be great. But for me, it symbiotically worked one thing and another. And I'm excited to go back eventually, man. I make all these excuses. I'm a dad. I got a crazy job. I'm all this. Yeah. But that's the same thing for me as making excuses why I'm not going to go to a recovery event. Like, well,
there's always online as well now, right? COVID, if COVID did anything for the world, the services that are available online now, like I know here at Yatra, and I'm going to plug them because, like, hey, what they're doing here is amazing.
Talk your talk, man.
You know, they do online therapy, EMDR, for instance. Do you know what EMDR is, you guys? Do you have any idea what that's about?
I've heard it, but I don't know the actual.
Eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Oh. So they wave this, like, their hand in front of your face and they get you to recall certain memories, and they're doing this, and it's like, well, I'll tell you, at the end of my first session, I looked at Mike, the therapist, and said, "Fuck you, Mike." I was just like in total disbelief at what had just happened. It was so, and it's evidence-based. This isn't some urban voodoo. This is the real deal. It's evidence-based. They're not 100% sure why it works. There's a couple theories, but universally across the board, anybody that has had anything to do with it, there's been a ton of papers, peer-reviewed on it. It works, right? Like, it just works.
Awesome.
And it's
I'm going to run get this charger.
Right?
Yeah, I'm right back in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Can you take this migraine away? Dude, I got a fucking killer migraine.
You need an acupuncturist for that. That's an old.
That's why I told her, I was like, "Yo, give me some Tylenol. My head's killing me."
An acupuncturist will pinch your big toe and make that go away.
Chuck, I'm gonna put this comment up on the screen. Chrissy
EMDR,
says, "Tell me about EMDR, please."
It's EMDR, Chrissy, and it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's like, you can do it online. I know Yatra Center here, YATRACNTRE, not ER, the center.com. If you go to the website that's been scrolling across my feed here the whole time, there's some links back to Yatra there as well. They do it online, but there's a ton of places that do it online. You don't have to, these aren't the guys you have to come to for it. Mike is specifically gifted in that he mixes EMDR, cognitive behavioral therapy, and internal family systems therapy in this way where one feeds the other. And like, he'll use cognitive behavior therapy to get to a core belief. Where does that come from? That's an IFS and internal family systems things. And then they go into EMDR to process that. And it's just like, it's this whole, wow, man. it is unreal.
Sounds like it.
And then you mentioned meditation swag, right? So that's one of the things here that they're teaching us. And that's one of those take home with you tools, right? And it's unreal. Like, I've ADHD. I can't make my brain calm down. Right? Like, I just can't. I never can. It's something that I struggle with relentlessly. But through, like, ice baths are one of the ones that something else that I've done here. Let me tell you about an ice bath. Oof. The first one was 1 minute, and it was the longest minute of my life. and now I'm up to 5. I did 5 minutes the other day in like ice water, right? What that does, there's a bunch of physical effects. The psychological effects are somewhat subjective, and so it's kind of a hard thing to prove because it's something that you have to. It's qualitative, not quantitative. So like it's the individual has to qualify whether or not it worked. But what an ice bath does for me specifically, because of the ADHD, is if you're going to sit in that water for 5 minutes, you can focus on your breath and nothing else. The moment you let your mind wander and go off into all these other places, you're fucked. Right? Like you need to remain 100% focused. And in doing that, I found like it's like a reset. It's a reset physically, it's a reset psychologically, because all the noise goes away. And for somebody who struggles with ADHD the way I do, wow, right? Like the calm, I have never had the calm, unless I used the substance, right? It was the only way I could ever find that. Tai Chi is another thing that we just started doing yesterday. And immediately I was like, oh my God, because you have to focus on what you're doing. You can't let your mind wander. When you do, you're not successful at it. Same with the ice bath, right? So it's just this whole, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I found Waldo.
Fist bump.
Waldo with the friggin' light. Now I gotta like crane. I feel like a mime, dude. I'm like Waldo meets a mime or something.
Can you please get a red and white beanie for next time? Can we do that,
I
please?
have literally like 60 beanies.
I've noticed I've never seen you in the same one twice, right?
I'm so petty with it now that if there's a blue sky, I'll wear a blue beanie. Like if I'm gonna be in front of trees, I try to wear a green one. Like I'm talking about Tai Chi. I'm doing some, advanced maneuvers with the beanies, dude. Like don't think I have a polka dotted beanie, man.
This is the genius I'm talking about. How the hell did you relate that back to Tai Chi? That was awesome, man.
I don't know. I hope I want to be respectful because Tai Chi is a beautiful tradition. I am not doing Tai Chi with beanies, but I'm doing one of those movements, reaching in I have a box with like dozens of them, reaching in there, transcendental or whatever. But
actually, I've hats. I've got 7 here now that I bought. Right. Well, I'm in Thailand, where they could give you really good deals on brand name clothing for really cheap, and I'm not sure why. Right. It's all knockoff. But like it's all knockoff, but it's land of the knockoff here, right? Like everything is crazy how quality they are, and
hey, we're gonna dab you up, Chuck, real quick.
All right.
Michael Larkin says, "I like Chuck LaFlange. I never heard him talk before today. Well,
I'll take the compliment. Thank you
are
very well, Michael. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate that, bro.
Awesome.
Hey, there's something. Take a compliment, Ben. I noticed earlier something that I kind of zeroed in on with yourself. That's a hard thing for people to do, right? But it's a healthy thing for people to do, right? Just accept that you deserve a compliment. Swag, you deserve a compliment. So do you, Jared, right? But we don't, as people, we don't do that. But part of what I'm doing here now is allowed me to, like, you know what? Yeah, thank you for that, Michael. I genuinely appreciate that, and I take a lot of pride in the fact that I'm, I got a command of the English language for the most part.
So Chuck is very well spoken, because we had this conversation earlier about how he's the salesman in our whole dynamic, because he can literally put words into like this vision that I can't. And so I'm like, yeah, this is why he's the salesman and I'm not. So it's all good. But no, he's very well spoken.
I'll actually speak to that, because Ben, you might get a kick out of this because you are part of it, but didn't know you were part of it. But I'll be gentle in the way I say this, bro. Right?
Yeah, say it.
Yeah. So there's a conversation that we're all a part of, a group chat, and Jared suggested yesterday, hey, we're looking for somebody to come on, right? And then there's kind of crickets, and then I came on and did the thing. He's like, what the fuck, man? Right? Like, how'd you get these responses? I'm like, I don't know, they love me, not you. I don't know what to say, right? But I bug him. And I said to him as well, here, this is how I presented everything. This is what I said. This is right. So that's what he's talking about right now, right? It's just the difference.
So that's why I told him that that's why this is who you are in our relationship.
Yeah. Oh, you got to get in front of that light. There you go. That's better. That's better. Oh, don't move. Don't move. Don't.
So I just wanted to go back to the therapy thing. Somebody had mentioned earlier, and actually this is very accurate because this is what I think in general too, is that this right here is therapy. This is a form of therapy. So like, I used to go to meetings all the time, and I don't go to meetings anymore, honestly. But when I do a podcast or we do a live, like this is a meeting for me. So even though like we're here to help other people like through this, I really help myself. And that's what it kind of goes back to keeping me grounded and keeping me on the straight and narrow path, because I could be having a shitty day, and I'll be honest with you. And there's times I did not want to do a podcast. I'm like, fuck, I got to record tonight. Like, I don't want to, but then we do it, and it's like one of the best outcomes that could happen. But again, that goes back to me being a human being, and I'm not going to be chipper about having to record 4 times a week, blah, blah, blah. But I am going to be in those ways. But this is like a therapy, though.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this
You
was.
guys asking about recovery time for us. Mine's 6/22/20. I'm not tech savvy guy, so you guys reach out to me. I don't know how to respond. I may learn down the road, but my date's 6/22/20.
Mine is 10/16/18.
Go ahead, Jared.
No, you're good.
Mine was 10/21/22. I just got just over a year now. Yeah, 14 months.
Amazing.
Almost 14 months. Yeah. So.
Ooh,
Yeah,
and you're right after mine.
My sobriety date is 9/07 this morning, because even though it's June 13th, 2016, it's like,
Yeah, there you go. Right.
What do I really have?
And well, I'll speak to that. If you ask me, and that's why I just said, was it 14 months? Because I had to look at the calendar or the date and go, well, what would it be? I don't really keep count, right? The only reason I know the date is because it coincides with my father's passing. It was the day he passed was the last day I got loaded. And then after that, I said, oh, I'm not going to disgrace his memory like this. Right.
I think I might, because I know it's backwards on the live, but I waited 7 years to get anything tattooed that had anything to do with my recovery date. And the reason is that I don't want to use it as like something to flex on anybody else, including myself. But
for me, it's not that noble, man.
And what's interesting is because it's probably backwards for the live, so it might be forwards here. I got it tiny on my arm, and it's backwards. It's 61316, no dashes backwards. And the reason is that whenever I see it, the only time I see it is if I'm looking in the mirror. So when I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I got to actually see where I'm at. And the sobriety date only means what's going on here, even if I'm not using. Like,
Benjamin
because
Lerner,
my sobriety date is meaningless if I'm not right.
Yeah,
like,
man.
I mean,
like,
Ben is the type of person that can watch a dog take a shit and have this crazy ass analogy out of it. So
I got me for a dog one today, dude. I went to the park with my dog. I talked about how, like, I was hesitant to walk through the gate of the treatment center, just like sometimes my dog's hesitant to walk through the gate of the park. But like when he gets on the other side, he's happy and playing with all the other dogs, just like I was in recovery. And someone was like, dude, not everything's a recovery metaphor. You're crazy. Get out of here. And I'm like, you might be right.
But isn't it though? But isn't it?
Might be right. But I'm gonna shamelessly do it. I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen you do a dog, just one dog one before. I think it might have been the first one I watched of yours.
Well, most of my reels are filmed on walks with my dog, man.
I caught that. Yeah.
Most of them, because
do you use your phone or like a GoPro? What do you use for that?
It's all phone. I use just like iPhone 12 with a crack camera, crack selfie camera kind of like that. I'm out here in the snow in Vermont most of the time. I gotta like dab it off with my clothes as I'm walking, kids screaming, having to do multiple takes. Like,
you're not using a gimbal either. You're just using the phone like in your hand.
Dude, I'm just using the phone. You wouldn't believe how many takes I have to throw out because they're just hella shaky or my dog pulls me. Some takes I let my dog pull me just because when I get back from that walk, dude, and I got to scoot in 5 minutes because if I don't, my 8-month pregnant girlfriend is going to literally throw a frying pan at me. But
yeah.
But that's the reason. Like, I love my girlfriend, but she's 4'11", but she stands 7'4" when she's upset that I'm not there to take care of my kid and, like, you know, fold the laundry and all that, help her. So, like, you know, but what it does is it grounds me in what it really is. Because when I try to be all pretentious and, like, talk big talk, like, it doesn't come out right. And I got to do like 20 takes. And when I talk about what I actually feel about a situation, it's like being in a fellowship event or like a treatment, like program meeting, sharing. Like, if you try to think about it in your head, you think it's going to come out all smart, but really it just comes out convoluted and fake. And so that's what I try to do with the content. And when I do a live or whatever, like I got all these crazy analogies up in my head and whatever, but like, if it's not what I actually believe, it's just going to come out wrong.
Fair enough.
No matter how good the words are, it's just not going to like, so walking around the block and like having that time limit, if the reel's not right, like I'm back in, and that's what I got for the day. And that's what keeps me honest is I only have that amount of time to do it.
Yeah. Right.
Speaking of only amount of time before Ben dies, why don't we wrap it up before he gets killed?
Do the thing.
Yeah, I can tell. I went to get that cord. She was like, uh-huh. I'm like, I'm doing it for the 15 minutes. She's like, mm-hmm.
Now we appreciate every single one of you guys that have been on with us, that has been watched the last hour and 15 minutes with us, that's interacted in the comments. This is what we do. And just if this is the first time, we do this every Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We have different creators that come on, and we just have a conversation about life and recovery. So, with that being said, we're going to give it Chuck LaFlange to close us out tonight.
All right. Well, first off, I want to say, guys, check out the Blaklist podcast with Jared. He's got a guest list that's just mind blowing, right? So check him out, and he's got some really great things in the pipeline. Best episode he's probably ever done was just last Monday. Oh wait, that was me. Just kidding.
Yeah, there you go.
shameless. Yeah, no. And of course, our podcast too. You can check us out. We're all over the socials. A2apodcast.com. We'll get you there, and you can check that stuff out. So, and Ben's content. I mean, most of you are here already because of Ben's content. But guy's a genius. If you haven't checked it out, go do that. Go do that for sure. And Swag, of course, you can catch on the Blaklist podcast, and he's got his own page. What is it, Swag? Your recovery
Sober
page?
is Swaggy.
Sober is Swaggy. Okay. I tried to tag you as a person in the shit and it wouldn't do that. So I have to, we're going to connect anyway. You got to get back to me there, Swag, about getting on the
got
show.
you, buff.
Book in. Yeah. So
yes,
anyway, on an outgoing message here. If you are in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start a lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, go to a meeting. I don't really care. Do whatever it is you got to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. And if you have a loved one who's suffering an addiction right now, you're just taking the time to listen to our conversation. You just take one more minute out of your day and text that person. Let them know they are loved. Use the words.
You
are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back.